South African National Defence Force, for you to be in this uniform, you are actually committing yourself to be a disciplined soldier. So by the time we put you in uniform and you go and do your basic training, everything that you do has to be done in a professional way. You have to be loyal and you have to be disciplined at all times, because even at basic training they will teach you, you wake up at a certain time, everything is done on time, you eat at a certain time, you sleep at a certain time. So all those things are important in the long run, where even in your career, when you are in your own functional area where you are working in your career, then you are able, same like the pilots. They start with basic training, and as a pilot, everything is dependent on time. So that is all part of being disciplined.
And one of the other things that we've actually, we touch on it, but we don't speak much about it, is the role played by the SANDF actually when it comes to our borders, and the amount of work involved there, and how they've actually helped even the border management to be able to assist with what is going on there and to beef up security as well.
And that is very true. The South African National Defence Force has actually made a lot of achievements along the border with the deployment of our members in Operation Corona. There's been a whole lot of successes that we have done. But nonetheless, with all the other things that can be actually improved, we are working on improving the situation in the borders. It is very critical, and I think we are committed to border safeguarding.
It is, of course, now a serious countdown, and 23 minutes before the top of the hour. And we did say it is about military precision. Mm-hmm. So the time becomes important now, because we will now await the arrival of the Deputy President first. We saw one former president arrive, didn't see the other. Not sure if he is in attendance, Bongiwe.
And we were told he said he was coming, because yesterday, when the National Assembly Speaker was briefing the media, she said they received a confirmation from former President Jacob Zuma that he will make it. We haven't seen it. There was an apology from former President Thabo Mbeki, definitely not expecting him, but we haven't seen former President Jacob Zuma at this moment. And also, I want to ask about the Deputy President as well, and who is assigned to him as far as the traveling arrangements and all of that. Obviously can't be at the same scale as the President. So when it comes then to the assistance, yes, Sakina?
I just want to ask, before we get to that part, so where there is confirmation that a former president will arrive and they haven't arrived, given the time and the precision that needs to prevail, at what point is it a cutoff and they no longer allowed to come through?
I think that communication would have been done with the NetJoc already, because of when the president decides he is not able to make it anymore, then the NetJoc will be notified, and they will inform the members that are assigned to him to step down.
Okay, all right. So and maybe perhaps we even, before we get to the Deputy President, to stay with something that you said, because we often talk about this net joints, and even during the briefings we speak about net joints, but sometimes a person who misses it, because we are in it, we know what net joints is. Maybe let's speak to a South African watching us to say, who's this net joints and who does it bring together, in order to understand how we get to this particular moment with everyone else?
Okay, I would say the NetJoc is actually where the security cluster, which is the South African National Defence Force, the South African Police Service, and as other security agencies, as well as the government Parliament Office, where they sit together. And that is where they discuss issues of movements, who's coming, who's going, who needs to be where, at what time. So all that is happening in that environment.
It also speaks about the road closures, which ones are going to be closed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And Lieutenant, maybe I come to you. that we speak about then the Deputy President in terms of his own travel arrangements to get there. What happens there?
So he will enjoy a similar convoy as the President, with the military police on motorcycles performing that motorcade configuration. So he will also have that escort to ensure that he arrives safely in time.
All right, and just a reminder, in fact, to our viewers who are just joining us, right, we're counting down. You can see there, the State of the Nation address is set down for 7 o'clock. But as we've been saying throughout the course of the evening, we are not only watching the developments from here within the parliamentary precincts, because yes, it's at the City Hall, but it's been declared the parliamentary precinct. There's also families who are watching the State of the Nation address, who are going to be waiting to hear what the President has to say. We'll be bringing you live reaction as they're going to then see if this the address resonates with them. Does it speak to some of the issues you would have heard on the red carpet as well? A lot of the concerns around the issues of water, but then young people talking about jobs. You think about some of the issues around economic recovery. Sakina, what does it look like? What does a functional state look like for an ordinary South African?
Absolutely, and of course, we are seeing a family now on our screen who are watching on SABC2, and it's always exciting going to the families just to get a sense from ordinary South Africans of what their expectations are, and of course what all of this means to them as we see the first motorcycles also come into view. And this is
that would be the Deputy President's motorcade. The motorcycles are escorting the motorcade of the Deputy President.
And we see this is right behind us now. I didn't realize they were already here.
Yes. They're right here.
They're right here. And this is, of course, Deputy President Paul Mashatile and his wife, who will alight from the car. And what's the significance of the Deputy President or the President or whoever the person is alighting from the left and the spouse from the right?
So this is just an ease of when the Deputy President comes out of the vehicle, that immediately he steps onto the red carpet and to greet the members of Parliament that are waiting for him to greet.
And of course being received by Dr. Anli Lotriet, who is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and of course also the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Les Govender. Those are the two people there receiving Deputy President Paul Mashatile.
And now waiting the Speaker of the National Assembly to make her way to receive the President. And as we've been talking about the important issue, right, of decorum as well, as far as the members who would be inside are concerned, because that is also quite important during a ceremony like this one. They must be seated before the procession enters, and each of the 9 provinces represented by a full quota of 6 permanent and 4 rotating members seated in the removable crossbenches. At the same time, there would be a delegation from the South African Local Government Association members who are also going to be present here. That is SALGA, and you'd know them for the work that they do as far as the municipalities are concerned. And then, as we've been saying this evening, there's also going to be judges, there's going to be former presidents, provincial speakers, directors generals. There's going to be a lot of guests who are going to be here tonight to not only form part of, I suppose, the ceremonial part of it, Sakina, but they are ordinary South Africans as well. They are also going to be listening to hear what the President has to say about some of the key departments that they work in.
Indeed. And there we see 2 more members taking position. And I'm going to hand it over to our experts to talk to us in terms of what is happening now, what are we awaiting?
Right, so we're anticipating that the President will arrive soon. We see on the screen some of our safety team. They're busy monitoring to ensure that if there's any delays, those delays are communicated to our pilots so that they can adjust their time over target. They've been given a time that they must be ready to be overhead, but if there are any delays, then that must be communicated timeously so that we can still reach our objectives.
So as we speak, they're already in the air.
Correct.
So just waiting for the signal. And at what time exactly are we expecting that flyover?
1852.
1852.
Okay, so
We'll check.
basically you say our phones must be ready from 1850. Start rolling from 1850. If you have a cell phone, Sakina, and you want to capture it, from 1850 you are rolling.
And from which direction are we? Because that's the other thing why we missed it. That's the other reason,
It's the
because we're
direction.
looking in the wrong direction. And you've been looking this way and they're coming that way.
Yes. They'll always fly perpendicular to the podium, so they're going to be directly coming in straight towards the podium and flying over. So with it being here in this position, it'll be coming in from a northeasterly direction,
Okay.
and they'll egress to the southwest.
And then the next part is the 21 gun salute. Who gets to be part of that?
Historically, every head of state gets accorded a 21 gun salute. And that is actually where the Defense Force offers the ceremonial honors, full ceremonial honors to the head of state. And in this case, our Commander-in-Chief, the President, will be accorded the 21 gun salute. And this is done by the Nelson Mandela Artillery Regiment. They are based here in the Cape. They have 19 members on there that will be on duty doing the 21 gun salute.
All right, as we continue then to wait for the arrival of President Cyril Ramaphosa, you've seen the Deputy President has arrived inside with his wife, Humile Mashatile, and they are inside now, and the members are waiting. And Sakina, for you and I, this is also going to be a personally quite happy moment as we're going to see our Imbongi tonight in action.
Ria Rien.
We are going to see her in action, excited for her community and what this means for her. And it's one of those moments, as we see now, the president is in fact arriving. I'm going to leave it to you, Lieutenant Colonel, to take us through what we're seeing.
Right, so in the background you'll hear the oryx overhead. That's also a good indication that the president is close by. We've got the motorcade coming into sight now, and we'll anticipate that as soon as they arrive in position, the President of the Republic of South Africa will then have an opportunity to take his place on the podium, and at that point we will then perform those ceremonial duties of showing the ultimate sign of respect, and that is the salute.
And perhaps let's talk about the everyone who's accompanying the president right now.
In terms of his security detail?
In terms of, yes, your part of the ceremony, let's speak about everyone who's involved in this moment right now, right up until it gets to the podium and, the assistance with the opening of the doors and everything.
Right, so we've got the military police that are busy participating in that motorcade. We've got 28 motorcycles that are in that formation, ensuring that the president does arrive safely to his position.
And Bongi, it's time now to welcome more viewers. En dit is nou waar ons SABC 2 kijkers bij ons aansluit. En welkom en allemaal vanavond hier bij ons ingesluit. En dit is natuurlijk voor vanavondse staatsrede. En jullie is net betyds om president Cyril Ramaphosa aansien te vind. En hier kan jy sien die president en sy vrou. En hulle is nou reg agter ons waar ons sit in ons ateljee, en die president en sy vrou gaan nou die rooi tapuit betree. En vandaar kan julle saam met ons kyk na die res van die verwikkelinge. So welcome to those viewers on SABC2. And as I was saying, I'm trying my best Afrikaans here this evening.
It was your best. It was amazing.
And we also have the watch party, as you can
there they are.
Glued to the screen. The president and his wife, of course. And good to see her here. She was not here last year, so good to have her in attendance. The First Lady of South Africa, and the President, of course, being greeted and received their bongi by the Secretary to Parliament, Mr. Tolile George, also the Speaker, she's coming through there, of the National Assembly, Togo Didiza, as well as the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Rifilwe Twenty.
And right now, of course, as we have been talking about this moment and how critical it is as far as the guard of honor that is given to the president as the commander-in-chief. Essentially, and this is a huge moment, as we've been hearing. So perhaps we bring you both in to speak about what happens now, about when it comes to the ceremonial part of everything before the president makes his way inside.
It's 1851.
Yes.
It's looking good.
What we are seeing right now is the warrant officer who is commanding the aide-de-camps. He is just giving the president a quick brief on what to expect and what is going to happen. From here, the president will start walking towards the entrance of the National Assembly. And in front, of course, will be the two aide-de-camps that will be marching at a pace that is set, because they must not step faster than what the president can walk. So they set their pace and march the president into the national precinct. Before he marches off into the national precinct, he will go onto the podium, take the national salute, and then they will assist him again, aid him into the National Assembly.
Lieutenant Colonel is watching the clock. I can see her getting jittery. She's wondering, no, is this going to happen on time?
I can see the two-way radio also in procession there, because, I can see the communication is happening. Yeah. So as you were saying, you were saying the people who are escorting the president, they are?
The two aide-de-camps, yes.
And so the pace at which they walk, yes, obviously picking it up now,
picking
slightly,
it up.
You can literally see it.
Yes. So they always need to be a few steps ahead of the president, not too slow and not too fast either. So they've been training this pace for the past few days just to get it right.
Are we still on time for the flag past?
I think they're on their way.
They are going to nail it.
As I position myself,
the right direction, huh?
hoping to catch a glimpse, hoping
that way,
that the moment doesn't pass.
They come. There they are.
Did you see it?
That is, of course, the military precision that we speak about. So the president now, again, led by the aides de camp, and he will now be entering I wanted to say the National Assembly, but of course this is a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament. And so we are scheduled to start at 7. But of course, this is where our praise singer, our little Iwongi, comes in.
Makes a way.
So we are very excited for her, young Ria Rien. And she, of course, will have the opportunity. And we had a lovely conversation with her earlier. I'm just trying to remember the language that she, of course, will be speaking in this evening, because, and this is her family, so I am our family.
This is our family. This is our family
The excitement.
watching. But her family definitely is
Her
going to be
family
watching
is
as well.
watching.
In order to try and catch a glimpse of her. And just a quick one, remember that procession, right? Is the presiding officers, the president, the sergeant at arms, and there's going to be the usher of the black rod, followed by the secretary to parliament. But all we are waiting for right now is Ria Rien.
And the language is Kuntali. That's the language. So I'm so excited, because this is the beauty of South Africa and what we are about, a nation of diverse peoples, and giving every one of those diversities an opportunity to showcase who they are on this big stage. So we're going inside because we cannot miss Ria Rien.
Order, honorable members. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer and meditation. Please be seated. Honorable members, we will try next time to add just 1 minute so that we can finish the prayers and meditation. Would like to thank our praise singer, and very importantly, that this year is the 30 years of our Constitution, and she gave the poem in Kuntile language, which recognizes the importance of the Khoi and the San members of our society. Honorable members, the leaders of our political parties who are here present with us in the gallery, our former heads of state, our former presiding officers who are here, our First Lady, the judiciary, the premiers of our provinces, the speakers, and all honored guests that have been invited by Parliament to grace this important occasion where we would be listening to the State of the Nation address. Would like also to acknowledge our members at home who are watching these proceedings online. Honorable members, the President has called this joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 84, subsection 2D of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Joint Rule 13, subsection 1, subsection A, to deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. I now call on the Honorable the President, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, to address the joint sitting. Honorable President. Honorable members, may we be seated to allow the President to address the nation. Honorable President.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Togoti Diza, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Refile Mtsweni-Tsipane, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. Amos Masondo, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Dr. Naledi Pandor, Mayor of Cape Town, Alderman Jordan Hill-Lewis, he was nervous. He thought I wouldn't be able to pronounce his first name because it's wrongly spelled. Deputy Chief Justice Dunstan Mlambo, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Khosi Thabo Siyahlolo, Isithwalandwe, Mayor Sophie de Bruyn, President of Contralesa, Khoshi Mutupa Mukwena, members of Parliament, premiers of our provinces, fellow South Africans. 70 years ago, thousands of women of all races marched to the Union buildings, their hearts beating with a common purpose. Armed with extraordinary cunning and resolve, these women braved police checkpoints and harassment. In a voice loud and clear, they said, "We shall not rest until we have won for our children their fundamental rights of freedom, justice, and security." We recall the powerful image of Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Sophie de Bruyn, and Rahima Musa, carrying armfuls of petitions to lay at the doorstep of a prime minister who did not dare to meet them. Every petition they handed over carried the weight of justice. Each of the 100,000 signatures they had collected expressed a desire for freedom and equality. For 30 minutes, the 20,000 women stood on the steps of the amphitheater of the Union buildings in silence, not singing, not moving, not speaking. The powerful imagery of these women standing in silence illustrated their resolve and their commitment to bring change about. Their silence reflected the deep emotional pain and frustration born out of systemic apartheid oppression. Their silence showcased the sorrow and the anger that these women felt in their fight for justice and equality. Their silence was long enough to be unsettling to the apartheid officials who were watching them. In that quiet moment, they showed the world that it is not the shouts of anger, but the stillness of determination that moves mountains. After the silence came the singing of the now eternally famous chant that has gone down in our struggle history, symbolizing the powerful role played by women in the struggle against apartheid. They chanted, "Wathinta Bafazi, Wathinta Mbogodo." Translated, it means you strike a woman, you strike a rock. It is said that the women's chant rolled down the terraces of the Union buildings, turning the seat of state power into a stage of protest, where courage meets authority. This evening, we are honored to have amongst us Mam Sophie de Bruyn, one of the leaders that marched and a stalwart of our struggle for freedom. She and many other women who have made enormous sacrifices in our struggle for freedom remind us that women have always been at the forefront of change, ready to stand up, to be counted, to speak out, and never back down in the fight for justice. To mark this anniversary, I'd like to ask you to rise and give a standing ovation to the women of South Africa who marched on the Union buildings in 1956.
We may be seated.
Mam Sophie de Bruyn, I can see where you are seated. Please stand up so that we can see you. It was 50 years ago, in that same spirit of defiance and struggle, that young people in Soweto walked out of school and marched towards Orlando Stadium to oppose the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction and the hated system of Bantu education. Their courage in the face of a brutally oppressive regime reverberated around the world and brought renewed attention to our struggle. The determination and sacrifices of the youth of 1976 and the generations of young people that would follow continue to inspire us. We thank the young people of 1976. "30 years ago, in 1996, in this very precinct, in the Houses of Parliament, the Constitutional Assembly adopted the text on which our democratic nation is founded. Our Constitution reflects the spirit of those women who marched in 1956, and the young people of 1976, and the many South Africans from all walks of life who fought for our freedom. It is a constitution that reflects the aspirations of the people of South Africa for a nation that is united and at peace, a nation that has thrown off the shackles of oppression and a divided past. It is a constitution that calls on us not only to redress the injustices of the past, but to progressively realize the right of all South Africans to housing, to health, to food, to water, to social security, to education, and to a better and prosperous life for all. Today, we must realize these aspirations in a world that is rapidly changing, a world in which narrow self-interest has replaced the common good, a world in which trade is used as an instrument of cohesion, a world in which might is right and the powerful impose themselves on the weak. To navigate this new world, we must draw on our strength as a nation. Our strength comes from our values, as articulated in our Constitution. The values of dignity, of equality, of non-racialism, non-sexism, diversity, and of the inherent worth of every person. It comes from our people. Our strength comes from our people, from our tolerance, from our generosity, kindness, and solidarity. It comes from our steadfast commitment to upholding the rights and affirming the dignity of people in our society who face prejudice and discrimination, including persons with disabilities and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. Our strength comes from our determination and resolve. It comes from our creativity and inspiration. As we navigate this new world, we must rely on that strength, the strength that comes from our natural endowments, from the minerals in our earth and the richness of our soil, from the beauty of our mountains and shores. Our strength comes from our institutions, which are robust, independent, and from the spirit of democracy and freedom that lives deep within all of us. Our strength and power comes from one another. It comes from what we can achieve when we work together. Our strength also comes from our respect for one another, even as we may differ on various issues. Our strength also comes from our sporting men and women who continue to lift the South African flag on the world stage and bring glory to our nation. Now, as we reflect on the state of our nation, we can say that we are stronger today than we were a year ago. Our economy is growing again, and this growth is gathering pace. While we have experienced 4 consecutive quarters of GDP growth, we know that it has to grow much higher and much faster to meet our social and economic challenges. We have achieved 2 consecutive primary budget surpluses. Our credit rating has improved. Interest rates are coming down, and inflation is at its lowest level in 20 years. We are on a clear path of stabilizing our national debt. The rand has strengthened against the dollar. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest stock exchange on the African continent, has performed exceptionally well over the past year. This growth reflects broader economic recovery, investor confidence, and increasing interest in South Africa's economy and equities. Our borrowing costs have been declining. Through Operation Vulindlela, we've made significant progress in accelerating economic reform and opening the way for investment competition. We have brought an end to load shedding and built a more dynamic and resilient energy system. We have made progress in improving the performance of our ports and freight rail lines, steadily increasing the volume of goods that we move in and out of our country. We have restored our passenger rail system. More and more commuters are now able to travel to work on newly locally made trains, significantly reducing their traveling costs. We are investing across our country in roads, in bridges, in rail lines, in ports, in dams, and in solar farms. We have created over 2.5 million opportunities through the presidential employment stimulus, mainly for young people and women. The expanded Works program and community work program continue to offer job opportunities to many throughout the country. Last year, we saw the highest matric pass rate in our history, with more than two-thirds of all bachelor passes coming from schools in the most disadvantaged communities. Now, as the economy continues to grow, the rate of unemployment must come down. By expanding our social protection system through the SRD grant, we have reduced the number of people living in food poverty. We are strengthening our anti-corruption laws. Our country has been removed from the grey list of Financial Action Task Team. We continue to make the progress that was difficult to make in previous years. The work we have done to rebuild key institutions from state capture is showing results. The South African Revenue Service is once again a world-class tax authority. The investigating directorate continues with its work and is making progress in the prosecution of those who need to be prosecuted. Most importantly, our democratic system is maturing. Our democratic system is maturing and growing stronger. The government of national unity, you will love this, has shown that it is possible for South Africans to come together from across the political spectrum to work on a common agenda for growth and progress. Last year, we hosted the leaders of the world for a successful G20 summit, which showcased our country's strength on the global stage. Confidence is rising amongst investors, business people, and consumers. Now, these improvements are the result of a determined effort across government and across society. They show what is possible when we work in unity and we work with unity of purpose. Now we have a unique window of opportunity to translate these gains into sustained growth. Despite this progress, we must be honest about the challenges that we still face. Although we are moving forward, we must not claim any easy victories. We are still far from where we need to be. For too many people, life remains hard. Jobs are scarce and opportunity is out of reach. South Africans are worried about violent crime and corruption. They are concerned at the state of local government and its inability to deliver basic services in many parts of the country. Above all, they are desperate for work and for an income to support their families. We can only be strong when we are equal, when the progress we have made is shared by all South Africans. The Constitution calls on us to work towards a society in which every South African has a fair chance to make a better life for themselves, in which every child receives a decent education and an opportunity to work and to thrive, a society in which we reclaim our public spaces and meet one another in the streets as equals, in which the state works for the people and the corrupt face consequences. This State of the Nation address outlines the actions that we have taken since last year and the steps we will take this year to advance the strategic priorities of the Government of National Unity. And these priorities, to remind ourselves, are firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. Secondly, to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living. And thirdly, to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. This evening, we outline the work we must do, work that we must do together to build stronger communities and a stronger nation. We outline the work we must do together to build a South Africa that is more prosperous, more inclusive, and more peaceful, more united, and ultimately more equal. A stronger South Africa must be safe and secure. The cost of crime is measured in lives that are lost and futures that are cut short. It is felt also in the sense of fear that permeates our society and in the reluctance of businesses to invest. Children here in the Western Cape are caught in the crossfire of gang wars. People are chased out of their homes by illegal miners in Kagiso, in Gauteng, Poba Mogale as well. Women are murdered by their partners in their homes. Building sites are shut down by criminals. This must and will change. Organized crime is now the most immediate threat to our democracy, our society, and our economic development. Our primary focus this year is on stepping up the fight against organized crime and criminal syndicates. And we will do so using technology, intelligence, and integrated law enforcement. We will tackle organized crime by consolidating intelligence at national level, identifying priority syndicates, and deploying hand-picked multidisciplinary intervention teams focused on dismantling criminal networks. To strengthen our fight against gang violence, I will be deploying the South African National Defence Force to support the police Now, thank you. As I said, I will be deploying the South African National Defence Force to support the police as we did to great effect with illegal mining. I have directed the Minister of Police and the SANDF to develop a technical plan on where our security forces should be deployed within the next few days in the Western Cape and in Gauteng to deal with gang violence and illegal mining. Now, as is required by the Constitution, I will inform the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces regarding the timing and place of the deployment of our soldiers and what it will cost. We have to act to rid our country of gang violence. At the same time, we are implementing an integrated strategy to address the root causes of crime through coordinated interventions across society, from street lighting to access to social services. We are going to tackle gun crime by streamlining legislation and regulations on licensing, possessing and trading in firearms and ammunition. We will increase enforcement of existing gun laws. We are putting more boots on the ground through the recruitment this year of 5,500 police officers, adding to the 20,000 new officers we announced previously in the State of the Nation address. We are also addressing the threat posed by the infiltration of illegal and counterfeit goods to South African jobs and industry. We are establishing a national illicit economy disruption program that brings together key state agencies and other stakeholders, including the private sector. Through the effective use of data analytics, AI, we will be targeting high-risk sectors like tobacco, fuel, alcohol, and other counterfeit products. The hearings of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the hearings that are going on in the ad hoc committee here have exposed rampant corruption in the SAPS and some metro police departments through the abuse of power. We cannot tolerate this. The rule of law depends on a police service that is ethical, responsive, and rooted in the communities that it serves. The South African Police Service has established a task team to ensure that investigations arising from the Madlanga Commission are undertaken swiftly without interference. The State Security Agency will re-vet the senior management of the South African Police Service and Metro Police Departments. The vetting process will include lifestyle audits as well. As we have successfully done with previous commissions, we will use the recommendations of the Madlanga Commission to make far-reaching changes. We are determined that the Commission's findings and recommendations will lay the basis for a fundamental reform of our criminal justice system. We are confident that these efforts will succeed because the great majority of police officers are dedicated to upholding the law and diligently serving the people of South Africa. Now, drawing on the success of Operation Vulindlela in advancing economic reform, we will use a similar approach to establish a hard-hitting new criminal justice reform initiative. This will crack down on organized crime, on illicit firearms and trade, using a dedicated team to ensure that reforms are implemented across the system. We are further intensifying the fight against corruption by strengthening bodies such as the Special Investigating Unit, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the Hawks. We will finalize government's approach to the recommendations of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council on the establishment of a permanent, independent, overarching anti-corruption body. We cannot accept that those who speak out against corruption are victimized, targeted, and killed. The Whistleblower Protection Bill will be introduced in Parliament. Among other things, this will criminalize retaliation and provide psychosocial, legal, and financial support to whistleblowers. And there will be a special focus on restructuring our procurement system with a view to ending corruption. The Auditor General reports that the majority of incidents of corruption originate in the procurement system. We cannot allow this cancer to continue, and we must therefore act. Measures will be taken. Measures that we will take will include the use of technology and the finalization of the new Public Procurement Act regulations by mid-2026. We cannot fight organized criminals by treading softly. We must act with zero tolerance and bring the full force of the law to bear. And I'd like this message to be clear. There will be no impunity for acts of criminality and corruption. In addition to crime, water is now the single most important issue for many people in our country, from large cities like Johannesburg to smaller towns like Knysna and rural areas like Giyani. We have all seen the pain that our people have been expressing through demonstrations in various parts of Gauteng. Now, these protests have been fueled by the frustrations that our people are feeling over inadequate, unreliable access to basic services such as water. I have directed the Minister of Water and Sanitation and her deputy, as well as the Minister of Cooperative Governance, to attend to the water shortage problem and engage with our communities. Now, I can see you are excited. As we speak,
Order, honorable members. Can we please lessen our voices so that members can hear the message? Thank you.
As we speak, they are in Gauteng at the moment, engaging with our people, explaining to them precisely how government intends to immediately deal with the challenges that our people are experiencing. They have informed me that the pipes that had been damaged are being repaired and the reservoirs are filling up again. Now, this comes from poor planning, inadequate maintenance of water systems by many of our municipalities, and the main cause of the problems are now the reason why we are now having empty taps. There is no silver bullet to address this challenge, which has its roots in systemic failures and many years of neglecting infrastructure. To ensure water security is in the long term, we are building new dams, upgrading existing infrastructure. We have committed 156 billion rand in public funding for water and sanitation infrastructure over the next 3 years. The construction of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project and other large-scale projects like the Ntabelanga Dam, part of the Umzimvubu Water Project in the Eastern Cape, is advancing. And we are in the final stages of establishing a national water resource infrastructure agency to effectively manage the country's water infrastructure and mobilize funding for infrastructure. However, the real challenge lies not in the availability of water, but in getting water to people's taps. The Water Services Amendment Act, or bill, will enable us to hold water service providers accountable for their performance, and if they don't perform, to be able to withdraw their licenses if they do not deliver. If a municipality is not willing or able to provide a service to its residents, then it must be done by another structure that can do so. Now, these reforms will address the root causes of the water crisis. In the short term, we need to address the immediate crisis where water outages are being experienced right now. 3 years ago, when we were experiencing daily power cuts, we established the National Energy Crisis Committee to enable a focused national response. We overcame what seemed like an insurmountable challenge by adopting a clear plan and delivering on it. Using the same approach, we will now elevate our response to water crisis to a National Water Crisis Committee, which I will chair. The structure will bring together all existing efforts into a single coordinating body. The Deputy President has been working with a number of water authorities in the country, and we will coordinate all that to make sure that we address this problem. It will deploy technical experts and resources from national government to municipalities facing water challenges. It will ensure that action is taken swiftly and effectively to address the problem. To address the challenges effectively, we will not hesitate to use the powers that are enshrined in our Constitution and in the Water Services Act to intervene in municipalities where necessary. National government cannot stand by and believe that local government will be able to solve the problem which they are not able to solve. National government will therefore intervene. We will hold to account those who neglect their responsibility to supply water to our people. Government has already laid criminal charges against 56 municipalities that have failed to meet their obligations. We will now move to even lay charges against municipal managers for violating the National Water Act. The critical problem is that in many metros, in many of our cities and towns, water revenue is being used for other purposes, and very little is invested in upgrading and maintaining water infrastructure. To address this challenge, in line with the commitment that we made last year, we have introduced a new 54 billion rand incentive for metros to reform their water, sanitation, electricity services. This will ensure that the revenue from water usage is put straight back into fixing pipes, into fixing reservoirs, and into pumping stations. Water outages are a symptom of a local government system that is not working. A far-reaching overhaul is now underway to address the root causes of dysfunction in many of our municipalities. In many places, local government administrations are weak, don't have the capacity, and are also governed by patronage rather than by technical capacity and merit. In her most recent report on local government, the Auditor General said, local government is characterized by inefficient accountability, failing service delivery, poor financial management and governance, weak institutional capability, and widespread instability. She says that arresting the decline of local government will require our collective action. We are now taking collective action. Learning from our experience of the past 30 years, we will in the coming months finalize a revised white paper on local government. This will provide solutions for the functioning of an effective local government system. The white paper will reimagine the way that our local government should work. The current system is too complex and fragmented, expecting even small and weak municipalities to take on many responsibilities. We will propose fundamental changes that recognize the reality that some municipalities can take on more functions than others, and that we need a differentiated approach to municipal powers and responsibilities. We're also proposing a more structured cooperation between municipalities and traditional and Khoisan leadership institutions to enable community engagement and shared problem solving. We will ensure that senior officials in local government have the required qualifications and are appointed through an independent process free from political interference. Where municipalities fail, we will strengthen the ability of national government to intervene more quickly and to direct corrective measures in the interest of serving our people better. These changes may be difficult, but they must be done. While these fundamental reforms are underway, we will continue to implement targeted support to improve the delivery of basic services through the presidential working groups on eThekwini and Johannesburg. While we have made progress in stabilizing eThekwini, which has led to investor confidence returning, there is much more that needs to be done in Johannesburg to deal with collapsing infrastructure, financial mismanagement, and electricity and water interruptions. The same applies to a few other metros in our country as well. There are many committed people with skills and experience working in local government. It is our responsibility to remake, reorganize, and better resource municipalities so that they can continue doing their work. As a country, we're increasingly vulnerable to extreme weather conditions. And just a few weeks ago, catastrophic flooding in Limpopo and Mpumalanga, as well as parts of KZN, caused the loss of a number of lives and widespread destruction of homes, schools, clinics, and other infrastructure. I visited Guyane, and where there were 16 houses, nicely built houses, as we arrived, it was just an open field. The houses had been washed away. It was like there were no houses ever before. The foundations, the roofs, and all that had been washed away. The classification of floods as a national disaster has enabled national and provincial government to prioritize funding to address the most pressing needs of the people who are affected. A stronger South Africa depends on a growing economy. For more than 15 years, our economy has experienced low growth. All our actions are now driven by the need for rapid and inclusive economic growth to create more jobs and to create, for that matter, better quality jobs. To give effect to the medium-term development plan, Cabinet has approved a comprehensive implementation plan to drive growth and inclusion. Through this plan, we are working to revive growth by creating conditions for firms or companies to invest by maintaining a clear and stable macroeconomic framework, investing in infrastructure that works, creating a conducive regulatory framework that supports growth and enables competition, and a focused and forward-looking industrial policy. The foundations of this plan is investment, particularly in public infrastructure, as well as labor-intensive growth sectors that are capable of future growth. Now, these include the digital and green economy, where young people will find employment opportunities. Infrastructure is much more than an investment in brick, mortar, concrete, and steel. It is an investment in jobs, in productivity, in growth. For many years, fixed investment has been declining. We are now changing all that. Government has committed more than 1 trillion rand in public investment over 3 years to build and maintain infrastructure. This is the largest allocation of its kind in our country's history, and it will be transformative. It will create jobs. Through the Infrastructure Fund and the new regulations for public-private partnerships, we are using innovative funding models, reducing risk and attracting investors to fast-track projects in energy, in water, in transport, and in the digital infrastructure. We launched our first ever infrastructure bond to raise funding for the infrastructure drive that we have embarked upon, which was more than 2 times oversubscribed, showing that when we have put our resolve forward and have put forward innovative ways of raising money, those with money, the private sector, do respond. Disputes arising from implementation of tenders often delay the implementation of necessary infrastructure. We often find that when an infrastructure project is about to be embarked upon, competitors start taking each other to court, and waiting for the long court process always delays the start of those projects. To prevent undue delays in critical projects, we will establish specialized courts for commercial matters with dedicated judges and dedicated court roles to ensure faster outcomes in matters that have a bearing on the economy and development. This will speed up the development of our infrastructure. This year, we will begin the work to establish a professional state property company to transform the 88,000 buildings and 5 million hectares of land owned by the state into professionally managed engines of growth and development. I see you like this one very much. I will repeat it. Now, through Operation Vulindlela, we are working to transform the structure of our economy, to fix our infrastructure, and make our electricity, water, and logistics sectors more competitive and more efficient. Having put load shedding behind us, we must now transform our energy system to ensure long-term energy security. For decades, our economy grew on the back of cheap electricity. But then state capture, mismanagement, inadequate maintenance, and inflated mega projects drove up the cost of electricity to businesses and to ordinary citizens. Now, with the far-reaching changes that we are making to the sector, and with our abundant solar and wind resources, we will be able to drive down the cost of electricity. Regulatory changes have enabled a massive and growing pipeline of investment in renewable energy. By 2030, more than 40% of our energy supply will be coming from cheap, clean, renewable energy sources. We are now establishing a level playing field for competition so that we are never again exposed to the risk of relying on a single supplier to meet our energy needs. We are restructuring Eskom and establishing a fully independent state-owned transmission entity, as I have said before. This entity will have ownership and control of transmission assets and be responsible for operating the electricity market. Given the importance of this restructuring for the broader reform of the electricity sector, I have established a dedicated task team under the National Energy Crisis Committee to address the various issues relating to the restructuring process, including clear timeframes for its phased implementation. The Minister of Electricity and Energy, Minister of Finance, and the Minister of the Presidency, and other ministers will all work together to make sure that we come up with clear proposals and timelines and how this will be phased in terms of implementation. This task team will report to me within 3 months. In addition, we will this year commence the first round of independent transmission projects to enable private investment in expanding our national grid. There has been tremendous interest. There's been tremendous interest in investments in our transmission process. We will work in each province to address transformer overloading, illegal connections, and equipment failure with the objective of eradicating load reduction by next year. We are committed to the path that we have embarked upon to modernize our energy system. We have begun to turn around the performance of our rail system and ports so that our businesses can get their products to global markets. We have now enabled private rail operators to access our network on a concessionary basis, which will now allow different rail companies to compete to move volumes from road to rail. Later this year, we will initiate major public-private partnerships in our port terminals and rail corridors through a concession model that preserves public ownership by the state while mobilizing private investment and expertise. Last month, we concluded a partnership with an international port operator to manage the Durban Pier 2 container terminal, the largest in our country. Pier, you're right. This partnership, something good also comes from your side. This partnership will result in new investment in equipment and infrastructure at the port and will bring it back to world-class standards. We continue preparations for the introduction of high-speed rail in South Africa. I know you love this one. Now I've been saying that we would like this to cover initially routes such as Johannesburg and Musina and eThekwini to Johannesburg. Now, it often takes, high-speed trains are happening in many parts of the world. They have cut down the time of travel, and in my book, it should no longer take 5 to 6 hours to travel from eThekwini or Durban to Johannesburg, 4.5 hours from Johannesburg to Messina, when it can be done in a much shorter space of time. Our people want it, and progress is now being made. Nearly 30 companies indicated their willingness to participate in high-speed rail corridors when we put out the request for information last year. We are preparing to send out a request for proposals which will introduce a new era of long-distance rail travel in South Africa at a faster pace. We are determined to compete in a rapidly changing global economy. Our industrial policy focuses on areas where we have competitive advantage, where we can create jobs, and where we can drive up exports. Our trade policy is aimed at promoting sustainable development, growth, and strengthening our international partnerships. In a world where countries are looking to diversify their supply chains, we have an opportunity to ramp up our exports across the globe. We have a diverse economy, high-quality manufacturing facilities, and strong regulatory frameworks. We are strengthening our capacity for trade negotiations and expanding our missions abroad to drive economic diplomacy. Amid the turmoil in the global economy, we are supporting our established industries in the face of strong headwinds. We have moved to revive our ferrochrome industry and to protect jobs in our steel industry, in our automotive and other sectors which employ hundreds of thousands of South Africans in good quality jobs. Ministers are crunching the numbers on a daily basis, seeking to protect the jobs that could be lost through the decline of these industries that are now facing fierce competition. We are working with businesses and workers to close loopholes in our tariff structure and develop additional measures to protect and grow our manufacturing base. As we protect jobs in vulnerable industries, we remain focused on sectors that will drive future growth. We know that we can create millions of good quality jobs in sectors like agriculture, mining, and services industry, as well as in the green economy. These are areas where we can be more than competitive. We can be the best in the world. Our agricultural sector is expanding rapidly. Already we are the second largest exporter of citrus fruit in the world. We are opening new markets for our exports, from citrus to avocados to maize, livestock, grapes, and wine. Through the blended finance scheme, working with the Land Bank and the commercial banks, we have provided 7.8 billion rand in innovative funding for black producers. We will deploy 10,000 new extension officers to support farmers and to improve agricultural productivity. This will give rise to many opportunities for young people to be employed in the agricultural sector. I saw how this works extremely well in Ethiopia, in the agricultural sector, which was really the worst sector. They employed 40,000 or so extension officers who support farmers. And all of a sudden, agriculture has now become the best performing sector in their economy. While the rest of our agriculture is thriving, the cattle industry today is facing one of the worst outbreaks of foot and mouth disease our country has ever experienced. This disease is damaging our economy, resulting in export bans, trade restrictions, and the devastation of herds. We have decided to vaccinate the entire national herd of 14 million cattle. This requires 28 million vaccines over the next few months. The state will facilitate the acquisition of the vaccine centrally to ensure that we get the right vaccine for the particular strain of the virus in South Africa. Like during COVID, many people felt tempted that they wanted to acquire vaccines for themselves. But because we are a regulated economy and country, we wanted everything to be approved by our authority, SAPRA. Similarly, in this case, with cattle vaccines, SAPRA, our authority, will be the one single organization that will give approval. We will work closely with the private sector to enable an efficient rollout, and most importantly, we will ensure that commercial, private, and communal farmers have immediate access to vaccines. Now, I have established a task team made up of farming organizations, farmer organizations and experts, working together with the Minister of Agriculture and his department that will report to me every month about the progress we are making in dealing with the pandemic. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we've got experts. We've got people with great knowledge. We need to mobilize them. We need to bring them to work with government because they have the know-how and the wisdom. We have classified foot and mouth disease as a national disaster and will be mobilizing all necessary capabilities within the state to deal with this crisis. Our services sector, from digital technology to financial services, is growing. Our financial institutions are some of the best in the world, and they have the ability to compete in Africa and across the globe. We are attracting major investment in digital infrastructure with 55 data centers already built and more than 50 billion of investment expected over the next few years. Tourism is a vital driver of economic growth. With every 13 international tourist arrival, they support one job. Our tourism sector made history last year, recording the arrival of 10.5 million visitors from overseas. We must now promote unique cultural, historical, and natural attractions of our country to reflect our country's identity. This can include traditional festivals, cultural areas in our country, local crafts, historical sites, and natural landscapes across the country in rural areas as well. As we strengthen our criminal justice system, we will make areas safer for tourists to visit. In the coming year, we will extend the electronic travel authorization system to all countries that require visas, enabling applications for tourists to be processed digitally within a 24-hour period. Now, the biggest opportunity of all lies in the green economy. We are pivoting our economy to be a leading supplier of products which the world will rely on in decades to come. We are expanding support for manufacturing of green products for global markets, from fertilizer to jet fuel, chemicals to steel. From March this year, we will introduce 150% tax deduction for investment in new energy vehicles, while supporting the local production of batteries as well. International pledges to the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan now stand at approximately 250 billion rand. This is financing large-scale investment in manufacturing, infrastructure, as well as skills. South Africa has become the world's largest reserve of critical minerals. Our ore reserves are valued at more than 40 trillion rand, making mining a sunrise industry. After many years of declining investment in exploration, we are dedicating funds towards geological mapping and exploration to harness our critical mineral reserves. Just this week, the Industrial Development Corporation announced more than 300 million rand in funding for the Frontier Rare Earths project in the Northern Cape. This has the potential to become one of the largest and lowest cost new producers of minerals that are needed for smartphones, lithium batteries, and other products. Confidence in the future of South African mining was very evident during the mining indaba this week here in Cape Town. New gold, copper, rare earths, platinum, and coal mines are being opened. And black people are players, serious players in this industry now of late. And we are happy about that. At the G20 Leaders Summit in November last year, the G20 countries supported our proposal to expand local beneficiation of critical minerals and the export of finished goods. Critical minerals beneficiation that should take place at the source of extraction, right where the minerals are found. Over the South African investment conferences, we were able to raise 1.5 trillion rand in investment commitments. To date, over 600 billion that was committed has flowed into projects. New factories, mines, and other facilities are being opened each year. We have now set ourselves a target of raising 2 trillion rand in new investments over the next 5 years. We therefore look forward to hosting the 6th South African Investment Conference on the 31st of March of 2026. To build a more inclusive economy, we are going to back those who create opportunity. If every small and medium business in South Africa could employ one additional person, we would create 3 million new jobs. But many of these businesses, a number of which are owned by women and young people, cannot get funding to start or to grow. Many struggle to find markets for their goods and services, and nearly all small and medium enterprises have to contend with a multitude of regulations, of bylaws, of licensing requirements, and bureaucratic hurdles. We take seriously the public comments on the draft business licensing bill and will ensure that the final bill makes it easier, not harder, to start and to run a small business in South Africa. We will do that. This year, we will provide more than 2.5 billion in funding to over 180,000 small and medium enterprises and extend a further 1 billion in guarantees. Naturally, we will seek to also focus on women and youth-led businesses to foster their empowerment. And we will amend the National Credit Act regulations to make it easier to access credit at a lower cost. The transformation of our economy is necessary to drive sustained growth, to reduce inequality, and correct the injustices of the past. We are undertaking a review to refine, realign, and strengthen our broad-based Black economic empowerment framework to ensure that it supports greater transformation and inclusive growth. Now, all these actions will create a stronger economy and fix the foundations that were broken. It is a matter of national concern that too many South Africans remain unemployed and too many young people struggle to find their first job. That is why we are rebuilding the economy. We are creating work and livelihood opportunities on a scale through public and social employment programs. In places like Standerton in Mpumalanga, the presidential employment stimulus is creating work that matters, turning dumping sites into parks and empty yards into community gardens. The SA Youth Platform has provided millions of young people with access to work and learning opportunities for the first time. The Youth Employment Service, a partnership between business and government, placed over 200,000 young people in year-long work experience opportunities. This year, we will introduce regulatory changes that will make it much easier for businesses to participate in the Youth Employment Service and create jobs for young people. In the coming year, we will expand our public employment programs, including the Community Works Program and the EPWP and the Presidential Employment Stimulus. We will ensure that they are better coordinated, provide income support, skills development, and pathways into longer-term work, particularly for young people and women. To ensure that no one is left behind, we are implementing decisions to increase employment equity targets for persons with disabilities in the public service to 7% by 2030, and to mandate a 7% preferential procurement target across all government and public entities. Above all, however, a strong economy relies on a well-educated, capable, and skilled population. Our focus now is on establishing a firm foundation for learning in the early years of a child's life. We are expanding access to early childhood development through the Bana Pele mass registration of ECD facilities and an increase in subsidies for ECD learners. By making grade R compulsory, we are getting all our children off to a good start. We are intensifying efforts to fix the basic education system with a focus on early learning, literacy, numeracy, and mother tongue-based bilingual education. Now, we must congratulate the matric class of 2025, which achieved an 88% pass rate. Now, this is the highest pass rate in our history, reflecting both commitment of the learners and the interventions we have made to improve learning, but we also congratulate them for the sacrifices they themselves have made to get where they are. As we welcome improvements in the also address the high dropout rate in the last few years of schooling. More learners must be able to write matric and take subjects like maths and science. That will enable them to progress further. To enable the youth today to transform our society and secure their future, we are preparing the ground for a skills revolution. We are undertaking a fundamental overhaul of the skills development system to implement a dual training model that integrates education with practical workplace experience. Now, this will enable young people, as they are trained for skills, to be almost certain that they will get jobs once their training has happened. We will reform and reduce the number of sector education training authorities, SETAs, to improve governance, strengthen industry participation, raise the quality of training, and better align skills development with the needs of the economy. Now, this includes improving the use of TVET colleges as the primary sites for occupational training and artisan development. To support effective workplace learning, we will increase the proportion of the skills development levy returned to employers, restoring it to its original level of 40%. We will also transform the National Skills Fund into a more agile, outcomes-driven instrument that supports unemployed young people to access workplace experience and employment, building on successful initiatives such as Job Boost. These reforms will ensure that various training programs that we have in government are a door to opportunity, not a dead end. To absorb the increasing number of young people passing matric, we will expand opportunities for young people to enter institutions of higher learning. I have directed the Ministers of Finance and Higher Education to work on a proposal for us to build more universities and TVET colleges for specialized areas of focus. An immediate problem is the great shortage of student accommodation at our institutions of learning. I have also directed the Minister of Higher Education to address this challenge, working together with financial institutions on innovative methods in which government can provide student accommodation. A stronger South Africa is built on strong communities, and strong communities look after their children. More than a quarter of children under 5 years are stunted, increasing their risk of disease and affecting their ability to learn and to grow. Now, this is devastating for children and their families and has an impact on our society as a whole. This year, we will embark on a mission to end child stunting and malnutrition by 2030 and tackle malnutrition amongst young children in line with the national strategy to accelerate action for children. We will focus on the crucial 1,000 days of a child's life, building on existing support such as the Child Support Grant. We will implement targeted interventions to ensure that pregnant women and low birth weight children get the protein and nutrients that they need. This is a massive crisis that demands attention and resources. Now, the medium-term budget statement that will be presented by the minister later this year will set out a clear allocation for the actions that we need to take. A major contributor to child stunting is excessive alcohol consumption, which can affect a child's development during pregnancy. Alcohol abuse leads to violence, leads to road accidents and crime. Now, to address this scourge, we call on provincial governments to strengthen the regulation of alcohol by limiting the density of alcohol outlets, restricting trading hours, and ending the sale of alcohol in large containers. As national government, we propose measures to curb excessive alcohol use, including minimum unit pricing or higher excise duties and greater restrictions on alcohol advertising, which we are consulting with the stakeholders. Now, since it was introduced during COVID-19, the Social Relief of Distress Grant has kept millions of South Africans out of food poverty. As a transformative instrument to improve the lives of the poorest and the most vulnerable people, this grant will be continued into the future. This year, we will redesign the grant to more effectively support livelihoods, skills development, work opportunities, and productive activity. We know that most of the money provided through the social grants is spent on food and transport. In our cities and towns, most people live far away from workplaces and services. We are remaking our cities and reducing the cost of living for working families by expanding affordable housing and revitalizing commuter rail. We are introducing a new model for housing where people are given subsidies for ownership and rental in areas that are suitable for them. We are shifting from building houses for people to supporting them to build, to buy or to rent their own houses. Yesterday marked the 60th anniversary of the declaration of District 6 here in this city as a white group area. A couple of 100 meters from here where we are, more than 60,000 residents were forcibly removed and relocated to the Cape Flats. The destruction of District 6 is a painful reminder of our shared responsibility to redress the injustices of the past and to build vibrant and cohesive communities. The restitution claim lodged in 1998 affirmed the lawful right of former residents of District 6 and their descendants to come home. That return has required court supervision, detailed planning, and sustained public investment. Many homes have now been completed and handed over to verified claimants. With 500 million rand allocated to this work, we are proceeding with phase 4 of the construction. The restoration of District 6 is a goal we all seek and a responsibility that we must all shoulder. We are working to build a healthy nation. As part of preparation for the National Health Insurance, we are investing in health facilities, in personnel and systems to improve access to quality care. We will be undertaking substantial investment in health infrastructure, prioritizing the construction and revitalization of our academic hospitals. On a recent visit that I undertook, led by Minister Motsoaledi, to George Mkhari Hospital in Ga-Rankuwa, I witnessed the dire effects of inadequate health infrastructure. Starting with George Mkhari Hospital, we will be working with various public and private financing institutions to finance the building and revitalization of that hospital as well as other healthcare facilities. Now, as a nation, we are finally able to imagine a country without HIV/AIDS. In support of our program to prevent and ultimately to eliminate HIV, we will be undertaking a massive rollout of lenacapavir, a 6-monthly injection that has proven highly effective in preventing transmission of HIV. We are also working to end cervical cancer in our country by mobilizing society to ensure that every young girl between the ages of 9 and 15 receives HPV vaccine. Last year, we classified gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster. Now, through this classification, we are able to better coordinate our response and direct efforts towards the most impactful interventions. Building on the National Strategic Plan, we will mobilize all sectors of society through communication and social mobilization to challenge harmful attitudes and practices. We will continue to promote women's economic empowerment through training, financial support, and preferential procurement. We will strengthen law enforcement through faster investigation, improved case management, expanded sexual offenses courts, and action against repeat offenders. We will scale up survivor center support, ensuring access to shelters, one-stop service centers, mobile and rural outreach, and the placement of social workers in our police stations. Illegal immigration continues to pose a risk to our security, our stability, and economic progress. We will address this problem while ensuring that the fundamental rights of every person in this country are upheld and protected. This year, we will take additional steps to secure our borders. Funding to strengthen border security will be prioritized, covering infrastructure, technology, and people. Now, key border posts will be redeveloped through public-private partnerships, and we will extend the electronic travel authorization to all international airports and the busiest land ports of entry. We are already using drones and technology to greater effect all along our borderline. The police, home affairs, and labor inspectors will work together to crack down on violations of existing immigration, labor, and other laws. Employers who hire foreign nationals without the required permits or visas will face the full might of the law. Now, to tighten enforcement, we will hire an additional 10,000 labor inspectors this year. As we undertake these interventions, we insist that the laws of our country must be observed by everyone. We will not tolerate violence and acts of lawlessness directed at foreign nationals. No foreign national should be unlawfully barred from accessing public facilities, including health facilities and schools. To build a stronger South Africa, we need an ethical and capable developmental state. A capable state needs committed and honest public servants with the right skills and a deep culture of service. Over the past year, we have passed significant new legislation to professionalize the public service. The Public Service Amendment Bill will protect key appointments from political interference and ensure that capable and qualified people are appointed to senior positions on the basis of their suitability for the job. Lifestyle audits have been made mandatory for senior public servants, reaching 93% compliance across departments. We are establishing a central registry for disciplinary cases across all spheres of government. This will prevent people who are facing or have undergone discipline action from being employed elsewhere in the state. We are continuing to improve governance and performance of state-owned enterprises like Eskom, Transnet, Denel, Prasa, and others. This includes the implementation of clear standards of appointment to ensure that the leaders of these entities have the right qualifications and experience. We will continue to work in a phased manner towards a centralized model of managing our SOE portfolio so that we can set standards, improve governance, and ensure financial sustainability to deliver on their mandates. This includes finalizing the National State Enterprise Bill, which will be done in this Parliament. We will harness digital transformation as a driver of growth, of inclusion and effective service delivery. This year, Home Affairs will launch the Digital ID to enable safe and secure use of digital services for all South Africans. We will digitize driver's licenses, matric certificates, and services at the Master's Office. Citizens will be able to fill out police statements online, and eligibility for SASSA grants online, and be tested remotely. All these services will be made available by my Mzansi platform. Soon, every South African will be able to access many of the services they need without having to visit a government office or filling out manual forms. This year alone, hundreds more bank branches will now offer smart IDs and passport services, decreasing queues and waiting times. We will also work with civil society to ensure that citizens' protections and rights are safeguarded through this digital revolution. For South Africa to be strong, our continent, Africa, must be at peace and it must prosper. To advance the values of our Constitution, to promote our national interest, we seek a world that is sustainable, just, and inclusive. In an increasingly volatile world, South Africa holds firm to the principles that defined our G20 presidency and underpin our foreign policy, which is solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Now, through our position in the African Union and the Southern African Development Community, SADC, we are advancing regional integration, peace, and stability. We know that we are using our international relations to support domestic economic priorities, including manufacturing, value addition, and export growth. We are contributing to the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area to expand trade between African countries, to drive industrialization, and to create jobs. South African firms, our banks, our farmers, our manufacturers will be leading suppliers to an African market of 1.4 billion people whose working age population will double in the next 25 years. We are building mutually beneficial relations with all countries on terms of equality and respect. Now, in a world where powerful nations often assert their dominance and influence over less powerful nations, our country's commitment to sovereignty and self-determination is sacrosanct. It is not negotiable. And we will stand firm on our sovereignty and promote our national interests, our values, and the rights of our people. We are clear that we will continue to respect the rights and sovereignty of other nations, but we must be equally clear that we will not be bullied by any other country in the world. We will forge strong partnerships with like-minded countries to increase our shared resilience to global disruptions. Building on our presidency of the G20, which all attest to having been very successful, we continue to advance the priorities of the Global South. Now, these include inclusive growth, debt relief, climate action, reform of global governance institutions, and the beneficiation of critical minerals at source, as we said. Drawing on the work of the G20 Extraordinary Committee on Global Inequality, we are working with other international partners towards launching the International Panel on Inequality. This is an important pillar of the global effort to reduce inequality within and between nations. We continue to champion multilateralism and strengthen humanitarian diplomacy. South Africa remains clear and a consistent voice for international law, for justice, and for human rights. South Africa will continue to support conflict prevention and peacekeeping efforts of the United Nations, the African Union, and SADC. We are proud of the participation of South African soldiers in peacekeeping missions in many parts of our continent since the advent of democracy. We have requested the United Nations to allow us to withdraw our troops from the UN mission in the DRC, where they were serving under MINUSCO, with a view of consolidating our own defense force and strengthening it. We cannot consider ourselves free as long as the people of Palestine, of Cuba, of Sudan, and Western Sahara, and elsewhere suffer occupation, oppression, and war. So, fellow South Africans, our nation has reached what many people are saying is a turning point. We are leaving behind an era of decline and turning towards an era of prosperity and growth. We have done much to overcome the effects of state capture, COVID-19, and the public unrest of 2021, and the devastating floods of the following year. We are turning towards hope, towards the reality of a better future for all. The progress we have made over the last 5 years does give us hope and encouragement. It shows what we can achieve when we work together. Now is not the time to rest. Now is the time for all South Africans to be part of taking our country forward. Last year, we embarked on a new chapter in our democracy, launching a national dialogue at a convention that brought together South Africans from across the country, representing all sections of society. Now, this year, this national dialogue process will spread across South Africa, reaching every community, every school, every university, every college, and every part of our society. Under the guidance of the Eminent Persons Group, consisting of prominent, respected South Africans, and led by an inclusive steering committee, these public dialogues will give the citizens of our country the opportunity to raise their concerns, their aspirations, and plans for the future. These public dialogues will culminate in a national convention where all these conversations will be brought together to outline the actions that we must take to build a better South Africa. These conversations will guide the formulation of an overarching national compact and the next phase of the National Development Plan by 2030. In building this national consensus, we must draw not only on the shared values of our Constitution, but on the unifying power of sport and the rich diversity of our culture. As we celebrate those who have reached heights of global achievement amongst us, we must appreciate how sport and cultural activities have helped to build a cohesive society. Harnessing the spirit of the women of 1956, the youth of 1976, and the people of South Africa in 1996 when they drafted the Constitution. The year 2026 must be a year of transformative change. This must be the year that we make South Africa stronger, not weaker. We must fix what we must fix. Local government. We must fight crime and corruption and restore trust in the criminal justice system. We must create jobs and livelihoods for every South African. And we must build a state that works for all the people of South Africa. Above all, we must ensure that this rising tide lifts every South African. As the economy grows, it should bring into its fold those who have lived on the margins. This is the time for all South Africans to rise, and we must rise together. Thank you very much.
And that wraps up the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa, State of the Nation 2026. A number of key points come out from that, but one would say quite a number of things we've heard before. So there is, of course, the big water issue, and we do understand that now the president is going to be chairing the Water Crisis Committee. So let's take you back into the into the Parliament.
Delivered State of the Nation address. After I have adjourned this joint sitting, members are requested to rise and remain at their places until the procession has left the chamber. The guests in the gallery should remain seated until the judiciary has left. The ushers will then indicate when doors are open. The procession led by the usher of the Black Rod
and these are the final moments before the House is dismissed. Remember, this is a joint sitting of the National Council of Provinces and the National Assembly. You can see on the side of your screens there, we do have families that have been watching the State of the Nation address with real-time reaction. This is one family that is in Westbury, and this is in Johannesburg, and they have been listening intently to the president, and one is really wondering what are they thinking, particularly when the president is speaking about the issues of chairing the Water Crisis Committee and saying that the issue of water is going to be receiving some serious attention as far as, the work of government is concerned, because we have had a number of places that have not had water. I'm still with Mzwa in studio. We'll take you through some of the key points in just a moment, but there's a lot of reaction that's lined out outside. So let me start with Samgele Masego. Sam?
With Nomvula Mukwanyane, the first Deputy General Secretary of the ANC, Mukwanyane, just the importance of the President's speech, very economical, speaking on the basics of the economics of building the country on infrastructure.
Speaking on the actuals and the realities of the people of South Africa, the repositioning of the South African government in responding to the issues and being ahead with regard to finding solutions on issues that have to do with fixing our economy, providing interventions on the area of local government, dealing with peace and stability, and the reinforcement of the South African police services through the National Defence Force, ensuring that, amongst other things, we mobilize the private sector to make sure that things in this country change for the better, as they have actually been presented based on his reflections around the SONA of 2025.
In short, the military being brought in Kagiso and in parts of Western Cape to deal with gang violence?
We have to reinforce with those that are capable, so that then they can be a multiplier force, and most importantly, that they must not be tolerant of anything that happens, whether it's conspiratorial with those that are in the sector of mining, those are feeding the gangsters, and finally ensuring that we rid South Africa of this scourge of violence and crime that has made our streets and our homes not safe, because they even hijacked homes. They raped children in the mine dumps. They took over possessions of individuals. What is of importance, we're now dealing with any form of illegality, foreigners as well as illegal mining.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress. Bulelani, off to you with John Steenhuisen, the leader of the DA.
Thank you so much, Samgele. Of course, DA leader and Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen will now join me to unpack the President's speech, starting in his capacity as the Minister of Agriculture. The rollout of the millions of vaccine shots for the herds of animals. How does that process going to be unfolding, and for how long is it going to take?
So we're procuring now millions of vaccines. We've got 3 different suppliers internationally that are shipping vaccines. The first one of 1 million is going to arrive in the next 5 to 7 days, and then we'll roll that out. But it will obviously be a process that involves the private veterinarians, animal health technicians. We don't have the capacity at state level to roll it out ourselves, and so it's going to be a big public-private partnership out there. We will procure the vaccines. We'll make sure the vaccines get to where they need to be based on the scientific heat map that our task team has developed, and we are going to vaccinate at scale. The goal is, by the end of this year, to have vaccinated 80% of the targeted herds and to reduce the incidence of foot and mouth disease by 70%. We're confident now that we have the vaccines, excellent vaccines from Argentina, from Turkey, from Botswana, but also our own locally produced vaccines that for the first time are going to be rolled out in the field.
John, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I'm going to cross over to my colleagues in the precinct. Sakina is standing by with EFF leader Julius Malema.
Thank you, Bulelani, and of course, leader of the EFF, Julius Malema here. Mr. Malema, let's start with the good. What did you appreciate in that speech?
Well, I appreciated the intervention by the army in the areas where gangsterism has taken over the streets of our townships. And that is a confirmation that the South African police services have dismally failed. The president is just scared to say they've lost confidence in the South African police services, hence the army. And we are happy that the army is coming. We are going to restore law and order. The rest of the things that he's talking about, he has been saying those things. Today, the difference is that he's saying them with energy. Why does he talk about trillions in water? He spoke about billions in water. Billions have been thrown into the Guyana project. There is still no water. So to utter trillions, billions from a speech doesn't translate into our people having water. And this thing of task team after task team is a person who's failing to execute their own responsibility and they shift it to other people. So it's a confirmation that he doesn't have the necessary capacity in the GNU to deal with issues that he wants to deal with. So we are here again listening to a man who is using a government platform during an election year to launch a campaign for his political party. That's what we've been subjected to here. Most of the things you have been listening to, we heard about them. We were supposed to be told today, how far is the University of Ekurhuleni? He said he's going to establish the University of Ekurhuleni and things like that. How many jobs have we created and where are those jobs? So that people can independently go and verify those things that he's talking about. This infrastructural development project is talking about, where are they? The unemployment in South Africa is very high. Amongst young people, it's sitting at 40%, and he can't be proud that he's going to give them some money because he gave them money during COVID.
Mr. Malema, you're live on News Africa Channel 405. What do you make of that comment and the undertaking that the SSA will be re-vetting members of the SAPS as well as those of the Metro Police Departments? This has been a point of contention given the fact that you also sit on the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee.
Well, that is a confirmation of the evidence that we're able to lead in the Ad Hoc Committee and in the Madlanga Commission, that it looks like majority of police are corrupt. And that's why they need the necessary vetting from an independent structure which is not conflicted. If one day you have an opportunity to ask Castle Matale a question, I told him when he became a minister, Deputy Minister of Police, and I said, you must never receive a gift from any of the police generals, because once you do that, they've captured you and they're going to get you into their criminal activities. Today, the president is confirming that the Ad Hoc Committee and the Madlanga Commission have revealed the serious rot which requires the state security to come and vet the SAPS and metros, in particular Ekurhuleni. You can see that Julius, that is a criminal, is a liar. They've been making that municipality a spaza shop. That's why when you interview him, you must put a 5 liter of water next to him because he will be sweating from lying.
And that, of course, leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, and me hand it over to Samkele Maseko. Sam?
Well, Sakina, we are with Mkhuleko Hlengwa from the IFP spokesperson. Mr. Hlengwa, just the importance of the State of the Nation address. What are the good points that you took as the IFP and what are the bad points that are there?
Well, I think that the president gave a very balanced account of where the country is, and I think it's a very huge acknowledgement for him to say that the country under the GNU government in a year has been able to be in a better position than what it was. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but it has been important to arrest the decline of the country to ensure that the economy is stabilized. And now the outlook should really be about job creation, as he has said extensively. It is important for us that he has spoken spoken about the issues of illegal immigration, which continues to be a very adverse burden on the economy, on opportunities for South Africans, and therefore the work that needs to be done there is critical. Secondly, crime remains of fundamental concern, and the fact that the SANDF is going to be deployed to give support to the SAPS is a welcome move, because we fully recognize the challenges that are within communities. What is, of course, an admission there is that there is a serious collapse within the SAPS, and the president is now finding himself having to put in place quite a number of interventions before fighting crime to first clean up the SAPS itself so that it is actually fit for purpose. The interventions around water are of critical importance, because the challenges which are being witnessed currently by City of Johannesburg specifically, but South Africa more generally, indicate that we are at crisis point, and the deployment of Minister Velenkosi Nihlabisa is a welcome move, understanding his skills and expertise at problem solving, and we fundamentally believe that declaring this as a national state of disaster should be followed speedily with resources, skills and expertise to be plugged in within the ecosystem of government to make sure that we are able to restore good governance. But it's all about fixing local government, and that will be a focal point for us this year in 2026 as we try and turn things around.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hlengwa. Over to you, Bulelani.
Thank you once again, Samgele. Of course, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe, leader of the ACTP, now joins me for more reaction. It's taken the Madlanga Commission to have the president announce that organized crime will be a priority for government. Do you see this as a step in the right direction, or is just a lip service to hide what we've been hearing from the commission?
Well, I think the man or the president must be given the benefit of the doubt, and as a result, I believe he wants to do it. That whatever has come out of the Madlanga Commission, the people who have been accused of wrongdoing, they will have the law dealing against them, which the ACDP welcomes. Okay, ACDP welcomes that. But now, one of the things that the president should have done, I think that caused that, if you remember, that the members on that section, on his left, were chanting pala, 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 pala. Now, he said, when they deal with crime, that the confidence of the people in the judicial system is going to be restored. But it will not be restored for as long as the pala-pala shadow is hanging over him, all right? So something has to be done to prove to the public that we are all equal before the law. So once he does that, I believe the confidence of the people in the justice system is going to be restored. But I must give him credit. He said a number of positive things that were encouraging. I mean, the fact that he also raised the issue of building more TVET colleges and universities because he wants people to be skilled is something that is commendable, and we want to commend him for that. And also the fact that he has agreed finally, something that he didn't want to do, of the SNDF connecting or assisting the police to fight the gang violence in the Western Cape in particular. I think that is a very good step in the right direction, and the ACDP welcomes this.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe, leader of the ACDP. For more reaction, we cross over to you, Sakina.
Thanks so much, Bulelani. And with me, of course, the president of SALGA, President Bheki Stofile. And Mr. Stofile, as far as the speech goes tonight, a lot of talk about the professionalization of the public service. This is something that SALGA has been calling for as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Sikin. Greetings to you and to your listeners back at home. We are happy that at long last, after 30 years since SALGA's formation, encouraging government that we need to professionalize government as a whole, and but of course local government, because through professionals that we recruit in the system, we then have a guarantor of a possible quality service to our people. And that professionalization to us, we are also asking that they must then help the local government, for instance, if I can talk about local government, and try to deal with some issues that make local government not to be possible to attract suitable, qualified individuals that can contribute towards professionalization.
And of course, just a quick one on the reform of perhaps the funding of local government.
Yes, look, it's a very good thing. The only thing that we are a little bit worried about is that if you then do all these reforms with a current allocation of 9.5%, we are worsening off the local government because it's against the constitutional spirit that the reforms in terms of electricity, water, as a part of the attraction of revenue into municipality is a little bit putting a little bit of challenge. What we are also, though, a little bit comfortable is the willingness to enter into engagement and mobilizing people, generally business and everybody, to play part into that.
Mr. Sofile, thanks so much. The president of the South African Local Government Association, and as you heard there in the President's State of the Nation address, many of the problems attributed down to a lack of service delivery at local government level. Sam, who do you have?
Indeed, Sakina, the issues of local government are very close to the heart of Ethel Trollip of Action SA, former mayor of Gqeberha. Mr. Trollip, just the essence of the president's speech, particularly on the issues of protection of witnesses within the country. I heard you speaking to your colleague about it now.
Samkelo, thanks very much. I have to admit it's a better speech than I expected. There were less fairy tales this time around. Covered a lot of issues. I think he was very candid about the state of local government and how broken it is and how systematically it's been broken over the last 30 years, but he accepted no responsibility for that. It's his government that has broken local government, and also water infrastructure. He spoke at length about that and that there's going to be a special focus on water infrastructure. I think they've realized it's too late. That the Vaal River system's full of water, dams are overflowing, but there's no water in the taps. So there's a crisis there. But the thing that I took away here is that as a small political party, a new political party, you can influence government. You know, we've been talking about illicit trade, extra funding for SARS, whistleblower protection, anti-corruption legislation. It's all in the record. It's all in the pipeline of private members' legislation. I called for a national declaration of disaster for foot and mouth disease, and I've been on the road every day highlighting the impact of this disease. He's declared a national disaster. So I feel vindicated. I think if this is how a democracy works, and if you're a competent, capable, hard-working opposition, there's a dearth of opposition in our parliament, and our 6 members have shown that we can influence policy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ethel Trollip. Over to you, Bulelani, with who you have.
Thank you, Samkele. Let's take this conversation now to Dr. Mmusi Maimane, leader of BOSA. Mr. Maimane, firstly, the president's assessment of the economy, do you think it's an accurate reflection of our performance?
Look, first and foremost, there have been good things that have happened in the economy. You know, getting off grey listing was important. We have a meager growth of 1.2% projected in the next while, so quarter to quarter. Our problem with our economy is that it is incapable of creating the requisite jobs. It isn't growing at a rate fast enough to keep up with population growth. And the reasons for that are inherently because South Africa is not safe. So people don't throw investment in countries that are not safe. Secondly, as we have experienced this FMD issue, it's going to impact our agricultural outputs, but our skills base is low. So I agree with the president that we must increase our skills base, but I want to challenge the president, increase the 30% so that we can have a higher output of young people who are going into the job market. And then lastly, I think we need to enhance better at holding politicians accountable. You can't have a Madlanga commission, etc., in a corrupt culture, yet it's only the officials who are the problem, not the politicians. So if the president wants to change the system, I would urge him that he mustn't just deliver an election speech. He must put deliberate action. All of these task force reports must be tabled in Parliament monthly so that the people are able to see for themselves what the progress is.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mmusi Maimane, leader of BOSA. Let's take it over to Sakina, right on the other side.
Thanks, Bulelani. I'm joined by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, telling Mr. Tlengwa to be quiet on the other side. But Minister, thanks so much for stopping by. So this year marks the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of South Africa. Let's start there in terms of the significance of this milestone.
Definitely, we're looking forward to celebrating, but we're not looking at celebrating only this year. We believe it's a year for reflection. It's a year of taking taking stock of how this constitution has helped us shape the society we have today, reflect on the weaknesses, and also look at what is it that we can do going forward. So as the department, we will be outlining a year-long program that will be culminating in the whole society, bringing various stakeholders to celebrate this milestone, and also being able to teach even our children what this constitution is about, their rights and responsibilities. So we do believe that it's a milestone that is worth celebrating, because we have this democracy today, we have this country. It is pillared under this constitution. It is the foundation that gives us many rights that we have, that guarantees our lives in the manner that they are today. And that's why it's important to look at this milestone and celebrate it.
The president spoke about deploying some of our defense forces to areas in the Western Cape and Gauteng that are gang-ridden. And that, of course, would mean, I would imagine, some arrests and therefore people appearing before the courts, which is your jurisdiction. And speaking to that, are you sufficiently capacitated? Will you be able to deal with what could potentially come?
Look, this plan is worked through the JCPS. Would have noted that during the week, as co-chairperson, I led an outreach in the Western Cape, where communities were saying that their streets, their communities have been taken over by criminals, by gangsters. And this announcement today reaffirms the importance of the country, or the government, making sure that South Africans are safe, but ensuring that the country, it doesn't become a lawless society. So we are working in an integrated manner. One is to ensure that the law enforcement agencies work together, both in terms of police, soldiers, and NPA, because those arrests are going to have to be successfully prosecuted. That's why we believe in prosecution-led prosecution-led investigations, so that they are proper, tight, and can go in. But another element that we're looking at is asset forfeiture, because many of these criminals, even those who actually go to court for corruption, they steal from the state and fight us with the same money. Criminals who are organized crime gangsters sell drugs, utilize the money they've gotten wrongly to come and fight the state. So we are saying, let's freeze their assets so that they have no power to fight us as the state, but face the mighty law of the state. So the courts as well will have to be ready. We are working around, we have done assessment, incapacitation of what needs to be done, and we have heard the president even talking about some of the interventions we'll have to make. So we will be engaging the judiciary to look at capacitation in terms of, they've raised it with me, that the number of judges are short. We've been able to appoint several magistrates, more than 200 now, that we have been appointing across the country. So we do believe that that is part of building capacity to be able to respond to the call.
Minister Mameluku Kubai, thanks so much. Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. Sam, it's over to you.
Indeed, Sakina, we are with the official opposition, the MK party, with its former Chief Whip, Mzwanele. Are you still the Chief Whip?
No. Yeah.
Just the response of the MK party on the speech of the President Ramaphosa on State of the Nation address, largely focused on the economics of the country, the economy and jobs and issues of local government.
Yeah, no, this was a waste of 7 million rand. He could have just sat in his office and did like he did in COVID times. There was really no point in us coming here to hear more of the same. Last year he promised an economic growth of 3%, and what did we have? We didn't even get to 1%. Promised jobs and everything, absolutely nothing happened. The unemployment has risen, poverty has risen, and now what we have is corruption-inspired water crisis. This water crisis that we have is man-made. It's because of corruption and lack of governance, lack of maintaining proper infrastructure. That's what you always get. And then it goes around and tells us about the investment summits where actually companies come and they pull wool over his eyes and they tell him that all the capexes that they would have otherwise have planned for the next 5 years, they present them as if it's some pledges, and then he thinks people are excited, when people are just running their businesses. So indeed, we think it was a really complete waste of time, and I'm not surprised President Zuma decided not to come here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mzwanele Manye. Before I go over to Bulelani, just take Songezo Zibi of Rise of Mzansi. Mr. Zibi, just the importance of that speech, particularly on the economics. You are very tough and a very interested individual when it comes to the economics of the country.
I think one of the most important things is the fact that debt service costs are coming down. South Africa has been paying 1.4 billion rand a day on interest on the debt that we're servicing. The finance minister has been talking about fiscal consolidation for a long time. I think we are likely to see debt service costs dropping from 424 billion per year to under 400 billion this year. That's a very good achievement. The rand is strengthening against the dollar, which is important because it affects the fuel price and other imports and so on. So we must not underestimate those achievements. But what's important is that the money that is saved from there goes to things that matter. There are kids who are protesting in this direction. They don't have university accommodation. I heard the president talk about new universities. Yes, we need them, but actually we need to capacitate universities like Forte, universities like University of Limpopo and so on, so that kids don't have to go and study thousands or hundreds of kilometers away from home. So there's work to be done. And the last thing I want to say, Samkele, a speech is always nice. Let's check the budget to see what is going to get paid for. So I reserve my judgment until I see what the finance minister is actually going to finance. Otherwise, it's a nice speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Songezo Zibi of Rise Mzansi. We'll come back with the ANC's Treasurer General. Over to you, Bulelani.
Thank you, Samkele. Once again, joining me now is UDM leader General Bandu Olomisa, who also is the Defense Deputy Minister. Thank you so much, sir, for being patient. Firstly, the rollout of these soldiers or defense force to these gang-ravaged areas, how do you plan to actually implement it?
In actual fact, we must say thank you to the government of national unity by prioritizing the issue of security of this country. And I'm also happy that the president's plan was discussed thoroughly towards end of last year and this year in our Lekgotla. The onus now is on the ministries, different departments, to go and sit down and start implementing that plan. As for the soldiers, the Department of Defense is already planning to roll out the soldiers to do their work as per the instruction by the president. What we are expecting to do now is to get a word from Parliament to say, go, move in. Then we move in. Within 2 weeks, I'm sure we will be deploying troops, working with the police and making sure that the orders of the president are carried out. But I need to ask the people of South Africa that we are going to require cooperation from them. No one should point a gun to our soldiers because we will be there doing a job. And if you shoot a soldier, then you are going to put us in trouble.
Just lastly, the issue of the porous borders remains a concern. As the Defence Force, are you strengthening that kind of process?
Yes, we are ready to assist the other departments in that regard. However, we must make sure that we have the right equipment and also make sure that we have support when we deploy our troops in the borders. They are already there, but there are challenges of funding. But I'm sure out of this instruction by the president, no clerk or an official in the Department of Treasury will be telling us a sort of all stories. We have to make sure that the security of South Africa is restored with immediate effect and deal with this lawlessness which we have experienced for the last couple of years.
Thank you so much, General Bandu Olomisa, the leader of the UDM, as well as the Deputy Defense Minister. For more reaction, we go back to Sakina.
Bulelani, I'm joined now by the Commissioner, Dr. Mike Masiapato of the Border Management Authority. Commissioner Masiapato, it was quite interesting listening to the President relay some of your successes and, of course, what this means for you going forward.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Sakina. Yes, indeed, as the Border Management Authority, we are very much excited that ultimately the President had emphasized, the criticality of border management, but also the work that we have been doing in terms of dealing with issues of illegal migration, but also more critically, the work that we've been doing in terms of, dealing with issues of the illicit movement of goods into the Republic, the interceptions that we've been making. And on that basis, we are very much excited that in the upcoming financial year, it looks like things are, going to be a bit very much bright for the Border Management Authority in terms of enhancing the work that we do.
When you say it looks like it's going to be bright, what does that mean? Because we've got a budget speech coming up next week. Do you know something we don't?
No, I'm just saying that, based on what the President articulates in this kind of conversations, mainly it gets translated into that. And we are very much hopeful that in the coming financial year, 2026, 2027, there's probably going to be something for the Border Management Authority on the basis of what the President had said. But for us, we are very much ready. We got the marching orders from the President in terms of the work that we need to do in terms of consolidating the border management work. And on that basis, we will definitely make sure that we do not disappoint.
Dr. Mike Masiapato there speaking to us about the Border Management Authority and what the President, of course, had to say about some of the work that they are doing and, of course, where that is headed with regard to some of the reforms that are afoot. Right, Samkela, where are you?
I'm with the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Dr. Ramaphosa. Dr. Ramaphosa, just the importance of the speech, very economical. What's your view, your perspective? He seemed very bold in this particular speech.
I am very inspired by the President's speech. Actually, I was saying to someone that this is a speech that will leave a legacy for the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa. I think over the years, he has worked hard to turn around the decay that he inherited, destabilized by the COVID pandemic and global problems. But he has stood firm to say that South Africa shall and will be better under my leadership. And yes, we appreciate that it is a GNU that he is leading. And most of the policies is what the GNU has inherited. And we are happy that we can say they are what we call green shoots of economic recovery. The President talked about the elimination of load shedding. He talked about also Transnet coming back to life, especially with the public-private partnerships where the state retains the assets, but private sector also invests in opening up the economy and making the economy move fast. He talked about this era as an era of also new interventions, like what? For instance, like the greater intervention in local government. We can't only point a finger to local government when things are not working. The Constitution implores all the three spheres to go and assist. You know that I was an advisor on the district development model, and it is possible. There's a success in eThekwini and also in preparation of G20. Government came in as well. So it will be possible to deal with water shortages, with electricity, especially load reduction, and the focus on the youth was also a key area of a new way of strengthening the CETAs and also making the TVET colleges part and parcel of closing the gap between learning institutions and the world of work.
Thank you very much, TG. I am now going to close off this evening that we have been doing with the Deputy Minister of Labour. Just one question to you, Mr. Thomas Bia, the importance of labour and making sure that there are documented migrants who are in the country working in the factories.
The President has made a groundbreaking statement today
saying that he's going to give the department 10,000 inspectors. It's for the first time since 1994 it happens. Currently, as the department was sitting at 2,300 labor inspectors, and the president is giving us another 10,000, meaning we're going to reach quite a number of companies, but that is going to help us even to identify all those companies where there are illegal foreign immigrants that are not documented. And also he said those employers who continue deliberately to employ illegal foreign immigrants, we are going to be on top of them, we are going to be harsh on them, we are going to deal with them. So it was very great that the president has given us so much resources. We are going to be out there and deal with all that has been happening, where people have been complaining and crying, saying the department is not able to reach as far as possible. Now we are going to be there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jomo Osibia. That is it for us at the State of the Nation Address 2026. A very bold statement, Sakina and Bulelani, from President Ramaphosa, particularly on the economic front and reading the mood of the country on the water crisis in Johannesburg. About a week ago, my daughter asked me, "Daddy, can I flush the toilet?" Sadly, there was no water. Sakina and Bulelani.
Hold on, Bongi. Minister Gayton McKenzie just stepped in. Minister McKenzie, good evening. So talk to us, your best takeaway from tonight's State of the Nation.
The State of the Nation was the best that President Ramaphosa has ever given. He spoke about all the issues. The President has delivered the best State of the Nation. GNU partners that are complaining about the President's speech, they are being very dishonest, because the President was consulting with us. The President is very consultative. He spoke for me. What impressed me the most was the army being unleashed for the gang problem in Cape Town. He spoke about illegal foreigners. He spoke about businesses that hires illegal foreigners. He spoke about the fact that about District 6. For me, the President has truly, we have turned the corner as the GNU. We are not where we want to be, but we are not where we used to be, but we are turning the corner. GNU, yasebenza.
So who's unhappy in the GNU?
No, I hear some people say in the GNU, the President should have said this, but we were consulted.
Who's some people?
Freedom from Plus, I saw they had some issues they were not happy about, but the President gave us ample time yesterday at 6 p.m. to say, how do you see the speech? We gave our inputs. And as you can hear, my inputs was there. Mabahambe, you could hear, was there. The Cape Flats thing was there. So what I'm saying, anybody that says the GNU is not working, Sakina, I can show you 4 things that the GNU is working. 1, the rand is very strong. 2, we've got low record of inflation, levels of inflation. 3, we've got close to 11 million tourists coming into our country. There's no more load shedding. We've had the best matric pass rate. President Ramaphosa is doing a brilliant job.
South Africans are saying all good and well, but we can't eat that. What do you say to them?
What I'm saying to them is he had a frank acknowledgement today, which is very rare in a leader, where he said, our people are still hungry. Our people are still victims of crime. We are saying we just need a little bit more time. We will sort out the problems of South Africa.
All right. Minister McKenzie, thank you so much. You know, we were basically shutting down, and there you came, and of course, it was important to speak to you.
Your outfit. But they seem to get a lot of money, the SBC, for this expensive outfit.
Not enough. We need more. We need more. Did you speak about the funding of the SABC?
No, the funding of the SABC, I can promise you, the GNU is very serious with that.
Q, Minister Nchabeni, the SABC and the funding model of the SABC, which is, of course, a very serious matter given the public service mandate of the SABC.
No, the Minister of Finance will announce interventions that are being made to support the SABC, but the SABC needs to start to build its own financial viability models, and that is important. You'll recall the time I was minister there, we always fought with the board about that the financial viability model is not a proper model for the SABC. So it's important that the Parliament finalizes the SABC bill so that the SABC can be able to move on and deliver on that. But also SABC needs to be able to move
move out of the analog signals and go to digital signals. It will also significantly reduce its own costs.
Indeed it will, but of course it all costs money. And if you look at the state that the SABC is in, you know we are in desperate need of the money to move all of these things forward.
Let's wait for the Minister of Finance on the 25th of February.
So we're getting money.
Minister of Finance is
getting money.
Minister of Finance is the only
We're getting money.
Sakin, I want to talk about the State of the Nation address.
Okay, let's hear what stood out for you.
For the State of the except that I've got more work to do. But what is important for us is the interventions that the President have made in critical issues that affect South Africans and affect our country. On the economic front, the measures that are being done to grow the economy and create jobs, including the support to small businesses. That is critical because they are at the coalface of delivering jobs, and also the firm intervention to address the water challenge confronting the country, so that we can then resolve it finally through the measures that we are experienced in handling with those issues. Also the progress that we are making in the logistics sectors to make sure that we are ready to export, but also a clear industrial policy and plan that we are going to manufacture here in the country. We are going to support more mining, exploration to enable mining to play a critical role in the green economy, because now mining is no longer a dirty economy, it's part of the green economy, it produces that, and we have the abundance of resources to do that. That's important, but also the interventions to support the skills of the country, that is important. And foremost to South Africans' mind, the interventions that he has announced to deal with crime, organized crime in particular, but also to make sure that the criminal justice system can function in a manner that delivers a safe and crime-free South Africa.
Minister Njaweni, thank you. And of course, the President spent quite a bit of time talking about the economy and reform, and it's going to be interesting to hear that budget speech next week, given what the President has said. And she didn't say no. So, SABC, we remain hopeful. It's back to you. I'm just saying no. It's Bongi. We were meant to say bye from down here. It is a wrap now. Bongi?
Thank you very much, SK, wrapping the day for us there. And as you say, we remain hopeful. We are hopeful. Let's see what happens when that budget speech comes in. So let's wrap this up with Mzwai. I'm still with him in studio. And Mzwai, one would say the big three, the deployment of the SANDF, we're looking at the water crisis, is going to chair the crisis committee. Yeah. And then, apart from the task teams, of course, let's look at now the specialized courts that are going to deal with the issues of the tenders. Did it hit the right notes, or was it a regurgitation?
Well, I would say it may have hit the right notes. And I think the kind of energy and perhaps the kind of decisiveness that was coming through in the speech, it would really be interesting to see it replicated by action. Because many of the things that he said, yes, we may have known about some of them, but how he came across as somebody who is ready to do something. In fact, the fact that he has decided to deploy the soldiers to fight gang violence tells you that perhaps there is a political will that is being backed by action. I think South Africans would also expect something similar or the same when it comes to issues like water, like local government, like exactly those costs that you are speaking about. So yes, as we say, the proof is in the pudding. But so far, it does appear that he appeared a bit more determined, perhaps, to tackle the issues. Many of the issues, of course, we know about, he has spoken about, and how it will be done going forward will be one to watch.
Some would say these are things that they've been waiting for quite some time, and could they be wrong if they say campaigning is in full swing?
Well, I think the election is probably around November. Perhaps we're still a bit too far from there. But of course, not lost on us is that this will be an election year, and certain things must be done. But obviously, whether there's an election or no election, so the services to the people still needs to be delivered, and quality services still needs to be delivered. So if then certain things won't be done because an election is coming whilst people are suffering, it means we are not delivering on the mandate mandate. And remember, this election, Bongi, is the election of local government. So as the national government, they have a term, they have about 3 years, 3.5 or even 4 years, because the next election, national election, is only in 2029. So they have the responsibility, they have the mandate to do what they're supposed to do. If as the national government they realize that at a local level something is not happening, it's their responsibility. Because, I mean, as much as we have different elections in South Africa, I can tell you, even local elections are decided by national elections, by national issues.
And as a final one, then, Mzwai, I mean, they talk about the commitment to end load reduction, right? But earlier on, when the minister was speaking to Ayanda, he said they're committing to ending it at the end of November. But
October.
then October, pardon me. But now the president is speaking about next year. So I don't know, which is it?
Yeah, I think what they are doing, they are playing a very careful game. I think Minister Ramaphosa is a bit more hopeful, perhaps. He is also an engineer, so he probably has a better insight. But of course, the president wouldn't want to be seen to make promises and come at the time he's not able to fulfill. So play it safe, but so that when it happens, end of October, is we told you, we actually ahead of the schedule.
All right, so it will be cometh the hour, cometh the man. Let's see then if it is indeed to be. So that's how we wrap up. In fact, what has been, Simpiwe, quite the day, It has been quite the day, you know, for colleagues here from behind the scenes to us here as we sit trying to make sense of the developments in South Africa. But nonetheless, it has been quite an eventful day, and a number of South Africans potentially have missed it. Some of them who are at work may have missed some of the highlights of the day, which is why we are deciding to end it off with a special montage so you can just get some of the critical moments of the day and you can take it all in. And from us here at the City Hall, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.